you're looking at it, you're like, they use magnets on the inside. Like that is like, you're bringing like in modern techniques, like you're going into the future with it. 20 years pass and you're like, they used magnets? Why would they use magnets?
Hey LEGO fans, my name's Graham. I'm here with my Blocks buddy Ryan because 75417 AT-ST has just come out, so we thought what a great time to talk about LEGO Star Wars Ultimate Collector Series sets that have been remade or reimagined, redesigned, whatever word you want to use for it. And we thought of all the new LEGO Star Wars sets that have just come out, none of them are controversial whatsoever. So
not at all.
We'll stick to this
Not
one.
Yes, I will say the first thing that struck me with this is first that I had to think for a second and realize that it was a remake because the old one is like borderline 20 years old now, which feels insane.
Terrifying.
But it's like this one, it's so clearly modernized from the old one, yet at the same time, it looks remarkably similar if you put like the two images next to each other. Like it's very interesting to me because like you obviously have 20 years worth of improvements going into this thing, 20 years of new pieces, new techniques. But at the end of the day, it's still an AT-ST. So like the overall design isn't shifting too much. So yeah, so it's really more of a how has Lego building changed in 20 years? Because like you still have everything that you need in an AT-ST with this old one. It's just a lot more exposed studs and a lot fewer pieces going into it.
I can guarantee something that the new one won't have that this one had, which is that the entire head section is held together by rubber bands. It's one of the wildest techniques that there's ever been in a Lego Star Wars set. So once you've got all of those panels, you use bands to like hold two of them together to get the right level of tension. So you've got that nice angle on the head. And it's really interesting and fun to build, but totally weird. I've never had anything crop up like it in any other Lego set. And yeah, there's no way that the new one's got that technique in it. It's amazing, really, that they ever even put that in this set 20 years ago.
I feel like it's very fitting. I feel like that time period just has a lot of like just the randomest techniques, like rubber bands and magnets, which I think we'll get to later. But then modern day, like there's none of that. They use rubber bands for some stuff, obviously, but like nothing like structural, like as a whole like side panel on a walker. Whereas now it's going to be like Technic pins, beams, everything like that. They've just totally reshaped how they do the same thing. I find it so interesting because it's so different yet so similar.
And I think that's what's so fun about this topic as a whole, really, is as you build different Lego sets over time, and especially if it's the same subject matter and they're like 5 years, 10 years apart, you really do see the techniques and elements and the entire system shift as the design language changes and the philosophy behind some of this stuff changes. And the X-Wings are a really good example of this because the first one was one of the very first Ultimate Collector Series sets back in 2000. Set 7191, this one is.
I knew what this looked like, and even still seeing it, I'm just like, this is a very interesting looking X-Wing. But for the time period, like this is mind-blowing. Like compared to that 1999 X-Wing that came out, that was all gray, so blocky.
Yeah.
Then there's this, and like there's what, a year apart.
Like, well, that's where I was trying to take my mind back to like how it felt seeing this for the first time. And now when you look at it, it looks like kind of too many wild colors. It looks like really messy in terms of the color scheme. But at the time, I feel like that almost made it look more functional and more real than some of the like play scale sets that we were getting.
Yeah, because Star Wars is always capturing that like lived-in, used universe aesthetic. So you kind of want to go for the grimy, but then also this white one from 2013, I believe it was.
Yeah,
it looks a lot better. And is it just because of the colors? No, because it's a 2013 set, so it's a lot more modern. The shaping is a lot better. Like that nose section looks a lot better. like it's interesting, even just the jump of 10 years here, or I guess
Yeah.
13, but we'll say 10. Like it's crazy how much it improved from there.
Well, definitely. If you think about the kind of limits that they still had in 2000, they hadn't built up this whole portfolio of sort of shaping parts and spaceship parts and all the different kind of elements that became essential to getting the Star Wars vehicles. And then obviously all the, knock-on impact that had to other themes and franchises. But it allowed all these Star Wars vehicles to just look so much more realistic and have so much authentic shaping. Like it's easy to forget now, but we had so few slopes and so few wedge plates back in the early 2000s. So even those are sort of relatively modern in the scheme of things when it comes to Lego.
I will say
But
I find it cool just between, because like the 1999 play scale 2000 UCS completely different. Put this next to the 2012 play scale, also a year apart. They don't look that different. Like obviously one's huge and uses bigger pieces, more pieces, all of that, but it doesn't look that different to me. At least just looking at the pictures, which kind of says the improvement of quality of the UCS, but also the play scale and how they kind of are coming towards equality almost.
I think there was a huge change in approach to play scale, like going from the idea that it only had to be a playset to being that it had to be a playset and a really decent replica of what you saw on screen. And I think you definitely see that in the early years of Lego Star Wars as it very quickly progresses from very blocky stuff to really stuff that, like, if you couldn't afford the Ultimate Collector Series stuff, the play scale stuff is still really nice and really kind of approachable as something you can have on a shelf. This is the third one. The X-wing is the only Lego Star Wars vehicle to have 3 Ultimate Collector Series versions. So yeah, this is the third one that came out much more recently. This one was 2023, and the engines, are beefier.
I would say that the slide shows, and I was just like, it just popped out. I'm like, interesting. I don't know. Like I feel like the difference between this one and the last one is less severe than 2000 to 2013. But that could also just be because like I honestly forget this set exists like more often than I care to admit. Even though it's only 2 years old at this point,
Yeah.
I feel like this is just not one that like had that wow factor when it came out. Because like we're on UCS X-wing number 3.
Well, that was my feeling before I built it. My feeling was I was so happy with the last one. I couldn't really imagine what the significant improvements would be. But the nose shaping on this is like, it was one of those things where until I built it for myself, I didn't quite get why it needed to be changed. But it's so clever the way they get this, the way they get the additional angles into it that I had never. I mean, maybe subconsciously I'd noticed they were there on the film design, but until I was really inspecting it and then going, oh my goodness, this is like, this is basically a Lego replica prop from the movie. It was, it was a real eye opener just how there was still room for improvement on the X-wing. And it was a really pleasant surprise when I built this one. But someone who's really had to think about how to build Lego Star Wars things is Ryan McNaught, aka Brickman, and we have an exclusive interview with him in the current issue of Blox Magazine, which is available at bloxmag.com, where Ryan talks about making the most accurate Lego Star Wars models ever for his exhibition that's currently running in Australia. So head over to bloxmag.com, buy the latest issue, or really treat yourself and get a great value subscription package so that every single month throughout the year, you get exclusive in-depth Lego content sent straight through your mailbox. But back to sort of more achievable Lego Star Wars sets, Ryan, because none of us can build a 1 million piece AT-AT like Ryan McNaught can, but we can build an Ultimate Collector Series Y-wing.
So this was about 2004, I believe.
Yes.
And I feel like this one looks pretty good. I feel like the first X-wing is definitely showing its age, but this one I feel you could at least say this came out in like 2009, 2010. Like you could still believe it. It definitely has those limitations you mentioned, like with the fewer slope elements, especially like on the front like cockpit area. Like it looks a bit blocky in its sloping, but I'm honestly impressed with how this one has held up.
This is one of those ones that I like left on display for years and years because you as anyone who's accumulated too much Lego knows, you always have to rotate the collection, take something down so something else can go up. But this one, I just loved the greebling on it. It was absolutely phenomenal, and it just made. And again, I've used the phrase already in this chat, but it looked like a movie prop that you'd got on your shelf. It was one of those sets that if a friend came over, at first glance they didn't notice it was Lego. They just thought you'd got a model Y-wing on the side. So yeah, that one always kind of holds a special place for me. And I think when they updated it, it was one of those ones that it wasn't an update for sure, but it wasn't. This was one where I felt like I could have still had the old one on display. I was really happy with the new one, but I didn't think it was a night and day difference.
So this is one that I always wanted to get, and I just never got a chance to because it looks so nice. But it's also another one where like I have the 2017 Playscale version, which same year. And again, they don't look that different. It's again obviously hugely upscaled, but like the greebling styles and like they use the same colors on the cockpit pieces. Like it looks very similar to that Playscale version. So like it makes me feel less bad about not having gotten this. But this is still one. This is like the one UCS set that I really wish I got my hands on.
I think the shape of the vehicle gives it such a nice display presence because the size of those engines, like pushing back and everything, and the nose pointing forward, is a set that it's about 2,000 pieces, but it looks bigger than that because of the shape of it and because of how elongated it is. So yeah, 2,000 pieces gets you quite a sizable Y-wing, but then if you go up to 3,000 pieces, you can have a Star Destroyer. So this is the first one from 2002, set number 10030.
That's it. Same thing with that original UCS X-wing. Like this came out in 2002. Like you look at the play sets that were coming out then, you're like, oh, they're not doing a lot. It's still pretty blocky, not looking great. Then there's this, and you're like you look at this in 2002, and you're like, this is the definitive version of a Star Destroyer. Like there's no way that you can get better than this. You're looking at it, you're like, they use magnets on the inside. Like that is like you're bringing like in modern techniques. Like you're going into the future with it. And then 20 years pass, and you're like, they used magnets? Why would they use magnets? Like, why not just use bricks, use Technic? Why would you use magnets? And then obviously it's the whole different color of gray, which now people aren't accustomed to look at anymore. I always like get a little jump scare when I see old gray. But like still,
at the time, the old school fans got a jump scare when they opened boxes and new gray came out of it. So now it's like the reverse of that.
But yeah, like for 2002, I see nothing wrong with this. I'm sure the magnets aren't doing so great. 23 years on.
There's a fun story about the magnets. So the reason they were used, and this story is in my book, Lego Star Wars: The Force of Creativity, which you must buy via the affiliate link in the description. Thank you very much. But yes, the story is that the train magnets they were using at the time were a way to hold the top and the bottom of this together, whilst being able to fudge the system slightly. Because the maths on the angles and everything, if you were going to connect it all up with the parts they had at the time, it was a confuser. So they realized that magnets was a way to get around having this massive frame and connecting everything together. But meanwhile, Lego trains find out that when the train carriages go together, they hold together really well, but kids are struggling to pull them apart. So they reduced the strength of the magnet slightly just before this went into production. So then this goes into production, people start receiving their copies of the set, and the magnets aren't as strong as they used to be. So some people had no issue with it. Some people found out that after a while, their Star Destroyer didn't hold as well together as they'd hoped it would. But thanks for indulging the diversion, Ryan. That story really tickles me, so I had to share it while we had the chance. There's no magnets on the newer version.
No, yes. This is one that I somehow am lucky enough to own, and I'm so glad I do. because I mean, like I said, like you look at like in 2002, you're like, it can't get any better than this, and then this comes out in 2019, I believe it was, and like it can't get any better than this. Like there's no way that they're going to make a better Lego Star Destroyer, and I'm sure they'll prove me wrong in about like 15 years from now. But this is honestly just a beautiful set. Like I really don't know what to say about it other than that it is gorgeous.
Well, this almost does feel like you've got a Legoland model in your house, doesn't it? Like the size of it, the scale of it, the kind of precision of it. It feels like you've got something it's more than a toy. It's more than a model. It's like a statement piece. It's such a special set.
I love the two little minifigures at the bottom. Everyone's always talking about minifigures and UCS sets, and like I agree with it to a point, but then it's just like those are exclusive Imperial officers down there, and like you can barely even see them. Just the shadow of how massive this model is.
We must have a debate about minifigures and UCS sets one day. Well, we'll make sure we disagree about it, and then we'll arrange to have a debate about it.
Of course.
But yeah, let's stick with the Imperial theme, and let's go back to 2000 when the Ultimate Collector Series set started. And at the time, it was totally normal for your TIE fighters to be black and blue instead of black and grey.
I was going to say, back when TIE fighters were blue and had a very, very interesting cockpit piece. It seems like one of those very hyper-specific early 2000s, like late 90s, early 2000s pieces where, like, again, you get it back then and you're like, oh, this is so cool. Like, look at this piece that they're using. And then you look at it now and you're like, what is that? Like, it just doesn't, it fits for the style of Interceptor. Kind of. Again, I like this era in a weird way, but like it's not great.
And I mean, let's use that piece as a kind of a jumping off point to compare it to the modern one that launched last year. And I think that just kind of summarizes the difference in that approach to kind of having a big molded element versus using loads of slopes and shaping them in really clever, wild ways in order to get this super specific shaping that you've got on there on the modern version of the UCS TIE Interceptor.
I mean, like this one, it looks round. Like it looks like you have, the TIE Fighter bubble, which is it's really impressive. I just have to be honest there. And then also the gray color scheme also helps, I think. I like the blue ties again, just from like a little like nostalgic angle, but this looks better.
And I think the thing that this one really illustrates is that although we've been talking about like remakes, when did they last do a TIE Interceptor? When did they do this one? With Star Wars, there's also all the other TIE fighters and things you've got in between. So the sort of round shape that they've got on the cockpit here isn't just leaps and bounds ahead of that 2001. It's so much better than any other Ultimate Collector TIE fighter that we've had. It's miles ahead. And it makes you want them to go back and redo the TIE Fighter and Darth Vader's TIE Advance and do the TIE Bomber and get all the other TIE fighters in this style so that they'll all kind of look as sleek and impressive as this one.
Yeah, then that's always the debate with the remakes, because then like you see this and you're like, oh, you have to do the TIE Fighter. But then if you do another TIE Fighter, well, then you're not getting the first TIE Interceptor in 25 years. So it's just, or a totally new TIE variant like the Bomber. So it's always just this interesting balance of figuring out what to remake, when to remake, how to remake it, and a debate that I don't think will ever quite be settled.
Well, just like the fact that our collections are never going to be settled, because it's like, oh no, we're gonna get a new one, or we're gonna remake. Well, we're all still here. We're all probably still going to be here by the time the 4th and 5th X-wings roll around. So
Yep.
There's plenty of scope for Lego to do new things with Star Wars and to do lots more remakes, and I think it's a nice reminder sometimes to actually look through these things and compare them, because it does illustrate just how far they come each time, and the fact that these are upgrades. Like the way we remember them in our head isn't necessarily the way they actually looked all of the time.
Oh yes, definitely. I gotta say, like as much as even I complain about a remake coming out and be like, something new, like it usually is leaps and bounds better than what you had before. And even if you're like, oh, I'm happy with the old one, eventually you pick up the new one on sale and you're like, why didn't I get this earlier?
But what does everybody else think? We've been talking on and on about what we think of remakes and highlighting some of the changes that have gone over the years. But tell us in the comments whether you like remakes, which remakes are your favourites, which ones don't need to be remade. Just tell us whatever you think about LEGO Star Wars Ultimate Collector's Series sets. And subscribe to the channel as well so that you find out the next time Ryan and I are getting together to have a chat about whatever LEGO topic happens to be top of mind that day. And so you can keep on top of all the latest LEGO news.